blah, blah, blah. All of that chit-chat's gonna get you hurt. I can't wait to show you my toys.
Music is psychotic, antisocial freak.
What?
Careful.
Episode 62.
Never Submit Entertainment proudly presents
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
the Never Submit Podcast
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
with your host, Matthew Chikala.
And what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world destroy you?
Join Matthew and his special guests as they discuss the latest news and rumors in all forms of entertainment.
Are you ready?
Each week, they break down everything from movies and TV shows
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker, that's right.
to professional wrestling and mixed martial arts.
If you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya. Ooh, yeah!
It's the Never Submit Podcast.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And it's happening right now.
Game over.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Never Submit Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Matthew Chikala, and as always, I'm joined by Mike Moten.
Hey.
And Joshua Hall.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good, man. We're getting a little bit of a late start here, so we are going to jump right into the news. All we're doing this week, due to time constraints, is buy or sell. So let's go ahead and jump into buy or sell right now.
It's time for the latest news in feature films and TV shows. But we're not just dishing out the news, we're also grading it. It's buy or sell. If our guests like the news, they will buy it. But if they don't, they will sell it. So, is it good news or bad news? Bad news. We're going to find out right now.
And for new listeners, buy or sell is where we go over any news story containing to movie, television, mixed martial arts, or wrestling. We'll simply say if we like the story, we'll buy it. If we dislike it or disagree, we'll sell it. And the first story has to do with our main story from last week, which is Suicide Squad. This is breaking news that just came out right before we started recording, so this wasn't in the memo I sent to you guys. But Jared Leto is apparently very unhappy with Warner Brothers and Suicide Squad. In a recent question and answer session, he said that he felt sort of tricked into being a part of something that had been pitched to him very differently. Also, according to that recent report, Leto said that he thought it would be more artistic production, and he was very overwhelmed by the hate regarding the look and the choices of the Joker. He said he has not yet seen the film after being disappointed to hear what did and what did not make the theatrical cut of the film. So, very disappointed, Jared Leto, with the movie. Doesn't sound like he's that happy with it, so who knows if he'll even return as the Joker after these comments. Josh, what do you think of Jared Leto's comments? Do you buy them? Do you sell them? What are you thinking?
You know what? For Jared Leto's sake, I'm definitely going to buy it. Just for the fact that he is a really good actor. And, you know, almost everything I've seen him in, he does a pretty good performance. The one that seems to stand out for me, though, is the Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey. So maybe going based on, the Dawn of Justice, there's additional scenes with the special edition Matt that definitely well aware of. So yeah, there's probably additional stuff that was in there, but also at the same time, also to Jared Leto's defense, I just don't think the portrayal of the Joker in this particular film was written well and was probably not even directed well. I just think personally for myself, when I saw this film, I was really longing and missing a Mark Hamill-like Joker. I think it's just because Margaret Robbie, I think her name is, the actress that played Harley Quinn, most of the time she was just spot on as Harley Quinn. And then when she's with the Joker was just completely, utterly off. Like I said before, he just looked like a regular goon at a nightclub, like some goth kid. And it was just so hard to buy. So that being said, I'd buy it because I think he's a really good actor, and I think if he would have got different dialogue, a different direction, maybe a different kind of a Joker in a script, probably something a little more old school. I even saw a blog online somewhere where they were thinking like the 1960s Joker probably could have worked a little bit better because it was a little more over the top. It could be a little more cartoony, have a little more fun with it, with the darker edge, because it is today's era for DC. It just kind of mix it up a little bit. Just be a little creative with it. So I definitely buy it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I buy the comments. I'm a little unhappy myself with the comments because, like I said on the show last week, I did not like Jared Leto's Joker. I didn't like the way he looked. I didn't like his portrayal. But then to hear his comments, and not necessarily these comments here, but also comments he'd made previously, where he had said that there's probably a feature film worth of deleted scenes of his character. So you're talking, 60 minutes maybe worth of his character out there. I'm sure he's exaggerating a little bit, but that means there's probably a lot of character building moments that were removed from this film, like we saw with Superman and Batman vs Superman, or Lex Luthor in certain aspects from Dawn of Justice. So that could have made his character better and more fitting into Suicide Squad. And for him to say he hasn't even watched the movie, that means he didn't go to the premiere, obviously, if he has not seen the movie. So to be that unhappy, he might not be coming back for future installments, which is definitely going to hurt the DC universe if he does not return as the Joker. But I definitely buy his comments because they said he was very method with this performance, to put a lot of heart into it, whether I liked it or didn't. He worked very hard for it, and then he got cut on the cutting room floor. I kind of see what he's saying. Mike, what do you think? And I know you're a big fan of him, and of course his music as well. But I know you're a big fan of him particularly. What do you think of these comments?
I'm selling this bullshit.
Oh wow.
He didn't even see it. He sounds like a butthurt star. Oh, I wasn't in the movie more. It's called the Suicide Squad, not the Joker, for one. So get over it, you little bitch. The movie, I'm glad that a lot, really, I mean, Joker is a feature character. This movie was supposed to, put the spotlight on the Suicide Squad, who nobody had really heard of for the most part up until now. Everyone's heard of the Joker. We know who the fuck the Joker is. Sorry, maybe you should have tried to be Deadshot or someone else. So I'm definitely selling it for that reason too, because then we would have been on the podcast talking about it was just a Joker movie.
Good point.
Even you say Batman vs Superman was basically a Batman movie featuring Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And this would have been a Joker movie featuring the Suicide Squad, where the Suicide Squad were supposed to be the main stars. Fuck your feature film footage. And on the second part, he had to know. He had to have some inkling that he wasn't going to be the whole movie. And I think that there was just so much backlash and outrage on how much they hated that character that this is just a PR thing. Like, yeah, guys, I hate it too. Don't be mad at me, but you know what I mean? So, no, I'm selling this. I think he's trying to save face, and he's just trying to get out of it because he doesn't want the backlash again for maybe another film. Unless, they tell him this is the Joker movie, or like Batman, a Batman movie, and Joker is the main villain. But yeah, that's just, man, fuck you. The movie wasn't about you. Done seen fucking the Batman movie in the 90s with the Joker. We've seen the Batman movie in 2000s with the Joker. Damn it, we want something new. We got the Suicide Squad, and I love the Suicide Squad. I would have rather seen even if the Joker was done perfectly, which I had no problem with the Joker's character, actually. But even if it was done, like Jack Nicholson's character, Heath Ledger's Joker, I wanted to see the Suicide Squad. I wanted to see something new. I went to see the Suicide Squad. I didn't go for the Joker. Fuck him.
You make some good points there, though. Like I can't disagree with you. Like I bought the comments because if he was saying that he was misled versus what he thought was going to be in the film, but then like you're saying, it could be simply damage control because most people. Well, not to say most people. It was split down the middle of people that liked his character and disliked his character. I'm obviously on the side that disliked his character. So for me personally, I'm definitely glad they cut his scenes out because every scene he was in the movie I disliked. I didn't like his character at all. So I'm happy with it. What do you think, Josh? Is this damage control? Now that we're hearing Mike's perspective, which does make sense to me, what do you think? Are you agreeing with that, or do you see it differently?
Like damage control because
do you think that he's just kind of covering himself? Do you think Jared Leto was kind of covering himself because a lot of people were shitting on his Joker?
That's actually a really good point. I could definitely agree with that. It was just a very underwhelming Joker, and honestly, that's a really good point too. If we got what do we get? Like 10 minutes of a Joker in that movie? So say, for example, if we got maybe an hour and 10 minutes of Joker in that movie, and it was like the Batman thing from Dawn of Justice, where it was primarily a Batman film, and this was primarily a Joker film. If that was the case, this movie probably would have been shit on. And wasn't there a case where there was a lot of scenes redone and things were recut and stuff like that? And so there probably is a bunch of other Joker scenes that are out there, and you'll probably get that on the DVD and Blu-ray and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it was underwhelming. But at the same time, I don't blame Jared Leto. I really don't. I think the guy's probably like a method actor, and the guy doesn't really he doesn't dedicate himself to superhero films. He's an actor. He's hired to do a role. He took the script. He probably really liked the director. He probably saw another movie the director did and said, "Oh shit, I'll do that. Oh, Will Smith's in there and that guy's in there. Sweet, I'll do it." And so he was just under a lot of trust that he'll do a really good performance. And honestly, to be fair, it's not a terrible performance. It's just not the Joker. That's the problem, And I think it just needed more. And I kind of agree with Mike says. It's like we want something different. It's a Suicide Squad, but at the same time, you got to give us that Joker. You got to give us that thing that we want. And I think the one thing I always think about with almost every live-action Joker from the 60s, Nicholson and Ledger, we always had that introduction with the Joker that they always had a kill sequence. And it was something so theatrical and so goofy, but yet it got over so well. The pencil trick, the hand buzzer, weird, colorful, deadly gas, just really goofy shit. But the shit always got over. It always got over with audiences. And I think this Joker needed at least a teaspoon of that, and we didn't get any of that shit. He should at least have the flower that squirted acid or something.
Right.
Something. I mean, and you fall in love with something you've seen. Don't fuck with it. It's fine. Give us what we want, and that's just my take on it. And I think when WB, when they saw some of the shit, they probably weren't happy. And that's, once again, though, I don't really blame Jared Leto too much on it, but that's just the nature of the beast.
No, I agree with you.
One thing you gotta look at, though, is in those movies where you said you had the Joker's kills, this, that's, that, the other. The Joker was the feature of the film. In this film, I look at the Joker as a role player, a supporting, just supporting cast. He wasn't made to be in the movie. He was made to be, but at the same time, he's now a part of the Suicide Squad. He's fucking someone that's in the Suicide Squad. It's like, you're not the boss, you're just fucking the boss type deal, even though he was the boss. But you know what I mean. So I'm okay with it. I'm completely okay with it. If that's his character, I'm fine with that being his character. It just sounds like more or less he's just pissed about screen time. That he didn't even have the audacity to fucking go and watch. The comic courtesy to go watch. You weren't even at the premiere. You ain't seen the movie and you're unhappy with it. How the fuck do you know you're unhappy with it? You ain't seen it. Maybe they did it right. Maybe if you've seen it, you could understand why it was edited the way it was edited. That'd be like me bitching about Matt editing me certain parts of me out of the podcast, and then like, oh well, I didn't listen to it. I just heard he did, and that's fucked up. Fuck you, asshole. You know, like, it's, I don't know. It's just, I get where you're coming from, Josh, because you're an actor, so you know, you see it more in his eyes, like if you were promised that time. But at the same time, you gotta think, man. You got the Joker role. That's a big fucking role to be in a bunch of DC movies. You know what I mean? So just shut the fuck up. Watch the movie and then tell me about it. You know, then say like, it's irritating. It really is. You know, I'm gonna give him some. I got a Twitter now. I think it's time I use it. I'm gonna tweet his stupid ass about the fucking idiot.
He's got a voice now.
Right. I was going to mention that, too, before we had time constraints and had to rush through a lot of stuff. I had this intro built in that I was going to say, and I was going to be like, I remember, I don't have the wording in front of me right now, but I was going to mention Mike's Twitter account that he promoted on the show a couple weeks ago, that he's getting a Twitter, then he has one, and then he's like made one tweet since he's got it. It was something about hating Batman vs. Superman, no surprise there, but he's not used it since, so I'm glad to see that Mike's going to take it to once again not hate Batman vs. Superman. This time he's going to hate on Jared Leto's The Joker. So all the hate is on Twitter, apparently. But you do have to, like, Josh, I see what you're saying, but I'm still going to buy his comments just because I feel like maybe he was sold a bill of goods that wasn't delivered on. But I got to agree with a lot of what Mike is saying. Like, I do think Mike's saying he didn't even see the film, so he's going off of secondhand hearsay, what was cut, what wasn't, you know, and I don't know who told him. Maybe a studio exec told him, maybe a buddy, maybe, you know, Margot Robbie told him, who knows who told him. But, like, if you didn't see the movie, I don't know. Like, I just figure my own opinion, my perspective would be probably, because, like, Josh, you mentioned there was several reshoots done to this film. Like, I probably figure Warner Brothers saw his portrayal of the Joker and wasn't happy with it because, like Josh said, it wasn't the Joker that anybody knows from any medium. There was no similarity whatsoever. It was basically Scarface. It wasn't the Joker. So they probably like, you know what? Cut this shit down. You keep him in the movie because he plays his little part with Harley throughout, but we don't really want him throughout the film because that's not the portrayal that, you know, we want. And, you know, I mean, so I get that, but the one thing that I don't like that they cut out, supposedly, like David Ayer, the guy who directed the movie, was talking about that Batman beat the shit out of the Joker in the past and knocked all his teeth out, and that's why he has that stupid fucking grill in his mouth. And to me, it's like, well, it would have been nice if you showed that footage because we didn't get any interaction really between Batman and Joker. I mean, he was on top of that car, but there was really no interaction there. And you could have been nice if you explained why he had stupid gold teeth and not real teeth or whatever. But, like, maybe they cut that. Maybe that's one of the deleted scenes. I don't know.
The gold teeth was just dumb. I didn't like it. And I didn't... You know, when I first saw the picture last year when they were doing the teasers and shit like that of the look of the Joker, I actually was okay with that. I thought, oh, okay, it's kind of different, you know, the tattoos and shit. When I see the final product, I just thought it was ridiculous. I didn't like the tattoos. I didn't like the gold teeth. The fucker is covered in makeup. I mean, what? Like, why does he need tattoos and why does he need gold teeth? He's psychotic. He's nuts. You know, he's not a gangbanger. He's more related to like a Hannibal Lecter than he would be to, you know, a fucking Scarface. You know, like that's just. I think they were just really missing the point of the Joker. And that's what's really disappointing about it.
I definitely agree. Sometimes that, sometimes you can take a established mythology, established character, established universe, whatever, put your own spin on it, and then maybe not deliver what the fans expect or want. And I'm going to take that statement right there to segue into our next subject for Buy or Sell, which will have a feeling will be a very short subject because Mike's probably not seen this. But I'm going to go right into the Rogue One trailer that was released this week. This was the extended trailer, proving on the teaser that we got previously. Josh, did you get a chance to see the Rogue One trailer?
Yeah, and I was just watching before we recorded.
Okay, cool. Mike, did you get a chance to see the Rogue One trailer? Probably not, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. You didn't miss anything. I'll just show my cards real fast, then I'll let Josh talk. I watched the Rogue One trailer. I was completely underwhelmed. I'm not going to really say much about it because I felt there was nothing much to say. The use of the music, the little remix on a Star Wars theme was nice. Beyond that, I felt like it was extremely underwhelming. You had a 2-second, flash there at the end. And Josh, you know what I'm talking about. That did nothing for me. I mean, to me, go ahead and talk about Rogue One trailer, Josh. I really, honestly, nothing for me, which is disappointing because it's a fucking Star Wars movie. And I remember watching the Force Awakens trailers, just be blown away, like, oh my god, I can't wait for this. Then you see this, and it's just like, all right. I'll see it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
I'll go see it, but not much to it for me.
Yeah. By all means, it's no Force Awakens, and it's no for my personal case, Return of the Jedi. But I did like it though because there's a few reasons I kind of liked it. For one, because obviously it takes place, I think, between Empire and Jedi. And when I look at it and when I think about the story, like the time frame, this is personally for myself. It kind of takes me back to old school days, like back in high school when we would play these games, like Shadow in the Empire. I think had a similar storyline. That was a game for the N64,
Mm-hmm.
and there were several books that were written that went beyond Jedi, but also there were books that were written in between A New Hope, Empire, Jedi, and so forth. So there were a lot of stories, and you see in a lot of comic books too back in the day that had a lot of spin-off stories. It's characters that were not part of the Rebels, that were not part of Luke's training or whatever. It was a whole other thing. I mean, it's a huge galaxy of characters. So I find it fascinating for that factor, And then the whole Vader thing at the end. There's two things that are a little underwhelming. The Vader thing is kind of neat. It's cute. But it's not going to mean anything because Vader wasn't a big part of that story. He was a big part of Luke, especially in that time frame. He was trying, in a weird way, trying to reconnect with Luke. He was on the dark side. Luke was trying to be a Jedi. They were conflicting. And there was a big war, galaxy war going on. So he really didn't have time for anybody else, And this story is about trying to find a way to destroy the Death Star. Now, we already know the Death Star gets destroyed. So that plot is a little underwhelming, too, because we already know how this might end. So either way, I like the look of it because, like I said before, it kind of reminds me of some spin-off stories I used to see back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I get the underwhelming a little bit because the story's not really going to go anywhere. These are characters that probably won't spin off too long because shit gets destroyed. We've already gotten episode 7. So I can see the whole underwhelming part on that factor. But for overall, I'm gonna see it and definitely buy into it because it's just I'm kind of curious how it does.
Yeah.
But I definitely see the underwhelming part too.
Yeah, my thing is I guess I just don't like prequels that much, and not to shit on the Star Wars prequels, but just prequels in general. I'm not a fan of prequels, so I sell the idea of Rogue One in general. I'm not looking forward to the Han Solo prequel that's coming out. I mean, I'll go see it, obviously, but again, no excitement, not looking forward to it. I don't like prequels. I know how these stories end, and by knowing how they end, that really takes out a lot of my excitement, because it's like reading the book when you read the last 10 pages already. Like, so you know the ending, so. Like, I know the old saying is it's about the journey, not the destination. Well, if you know the destination, then a lot of the excitement, a lot of the adventure is taken out. Like, if you watch Rocky for the first time and at the end of the movie he goes the distance, he doesn't win, but he goes the distance. That whole build up, that whole suspense, that whole momentum, everything is taken away because he goes the distance. Same thing, Rocky 2. So it's like, well, I know what happens not particularly Rogue One, but in this universe, this story, like they show Darth Vader at the end. Yay, great, Darth Vader's in there for, a millisecond probably, I can only assume, because we know nothing big is going to happen with him because he's in several movies that take place after this. These characters in this movie probably can't be that big of a deal because they're not in any movies, A New Hope, Empire, or Jedi, Force Awakens. After this, they're probably... It's the same thing that I have a problem, like, I don't know if you watched that Star Wars Rebels Disney XD cartoon. They brought Vader in that show, and I was like, Jesus, now you're bringing Vader in this. And I get Vader is probably one of the most well-known characters besides maybe Yoda. But, like, bringing him in, nothing of impact is going to be done with that character because it can't be. So it's like, I don't know. It's just a personal preference. I don't like prequels. So and just to me personally, the trailer didn't give me a Star Wars feeling. It just felt like a war movie, like Platoon or Black Hawk Down or whatever. And they just happened to mention the Force in it. I don't know. To me, it wasn't what I was expecting by any means. But that's the trailer. I mean, I could come on here and review the movie like, oh my god, Rogue One was so amazing, I can't believe how great it was, but we'll see.
Bullshit. Like I said, I definitely get the Star Wars feeling out of it. I just think, I just think for underwhelming, it's a story that's not going to go anywhere. That's just the biggest problem.
Right.
At least with the prequels, like the prequels we got like a decade or 15 years ago, at least with those prequels, they had characters that were going to have a prolonging story.
Yes.
This, I mean, we know what happens in Jedi. We obviously know what happens in Episode 7. This movie's kind of a dead duck as far as the story and characters are concerned. They're not really going to have a longevity. That's just the only problem that I can see. And then Vader is just there for fan favors and shit.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, well, let's move on to the next story here real quick, and this is one I'm looking forward to hearing what Josh has to say. They did announce recently that Man of Steel 2 is actively in development. That's not actually the title. We don't know what the title is going to be. There's also not a release date, but there is speculation out there that they are going to shoehorn this in the next year or two after, obviously, Justice League, so Superman is resurrected. Kind of like they're shoehorning in the Batman, because DC released the schedule of Wonder Woman, Justice League, the Flash movie, Cyborg, and then the next, we gotta get a Batman movie in there and put Batman in there. Now it's Man of Steel 2 is gonna get its own direct sequel, shove that in there. So we're going to get that. So I guess the question for this one is going to be, not knowing a release date, we also don't know a director. Is Zack Snyder coming back, or are we getting somebody else to take over? Do we buy or sell the idea of a Man of Steel 2? And if we do, what are we hoping to see with this? And Josh, you're our resident Superman fan. So I'm going to make everybody wait for your opinion, and I'm going to go to Mike first. So, Mike, Mike, do you buy or sell the idea of Man of Steel 2? And if you buy it, what do you expect or want to see from this sequel?
What the fuck? Didn't they kill that shitty character?
Well, we know he's coming back in Justice League, obviously.
It's like Jason, he just keeps coming back.
Oh, here we go. Superman becomes supernatural. Alrighty. No, like, that's why people don't like Superman, because you keep putting him in these shitty ass films. It's gonna be shit. It's gonna be horrible. I love Superman, and they just keep failing with him. It's just, it's like that bad relationship, and that's how it's gonna be with this movie. It's that bitch that I know I need to stay the fuck away from, but I just keep going back because I love her, and it's gonna be the same fucking shit. I'm gonna go in and be like, well, maybe after all the criticisms, they got everything right. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna fucking roast the shit out of the movie for the next year like I've been doing Batman v Superman. This time it'll just be Superman 2. Oh my god, why? Why? For what? Just like bring him back to life towards the end of Justice League movie when you do it. God, we do not need another Superman. Can we get the Flash? And you said they're going to shoehorn it in? So basically they're not going to take their time with it. They're going to rush it. A movie that needs, oh my god.
That's the speculation. That's not confirmed, but that's the speculation, is they're going to try and put it on the fast track. So you'll probably get Wonder Woman, Justice League, which will see Superman resurrected, we know that, and then the Flash, and then probably either the Batman and then Man of Steel 2, or it'll be mixed in, probably in the next 2019, 2020. It'll be the next couple of years for sure.
Does DC stand for dumb cunts? Like, shouldn't we have the Flash movie before the Justice League? I mean, oh my god, it's. I'm done. This is it. Oh my, it's stupid. Well, why? This is so upsetting. Not only the fact that but just their chronological order of these things. It's just horrible. It's all bad. Couldn't they take any any tips from Marvel? I know they probably hate Marvel, but Marvel laid down a pretty good, fucking format on how to do these things. We have a movie with each member of the Avengers, and then we have an Avengers movie. Unless they just know that their movies suck that fucking bad, and they want to milk us for all the money they can, so they'll go ahead and put out the Justice League before they release the shit Superman movie and the shit Flash movie that they'll probably release. And it's not that I'm a DC hater, because, hey, I loved Suicide Squad. Loved it. I might even think it's better than Civil War. I don't know. I went and seen it for a second time. And that's the first movie in over a decade that I've seen in the theaters twice. So, I mean, it's not that I'm a DC hater, but, man, they're just really good at dropping the fucking ball, and it appears they're doing it again. So, yeah, I'm not excited. I'm selling the shit out. I'm not even selling it. I'm just going to put it on the fucking curb and let the garbage man pick it up.
All right, strong words on Man of Steel 2. Before I get to Josh, I'm torn on this because, like, I like Batman vs Superman. We know that. I did not like I didn't like the portrayal of Superman in that movie, but I keep thinking in my head that they killed the character off in that movie. He's coming back in Justice League. That's a given. There's been hints on social media from Henry Cavill of the black, Superman costume from the comic books when he comes back, with the mullet and whatever. So I'm torn because I don't know what Superman is coming back in Justice League, therefore what Superman's going to be in Man of Steel 2. This could be their chance of, giving us the boy wonder Superman that we all know, because now that Superman died for, his Earth, his people, he comes back as, the Superman that we all know and love, or does he come back as, the bad guy Superman? I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they could go with this, so I'm skeptical. To me, with Man of Steel 2, my big thing is, who's going to be directing it because they haven't confirmed if Zack Snyder's back or not. I have no problem with Zack Snyder, like, personally. Like I said, I liked Batman vs. Superman. I liked Watchmen. I liked the Dawn of the Dead movie. I've never seen Sucker Punch, but I like a lot of his work, so I have no problem with him. But I think I would like to see somebody else handle Superman in the Return. I don't want to see Zack Snyder. You know, I like his movies. I just don't like his handling of Superman. So if he is on Man of Steel 2, it's a big sell for me. I don't want that. If it's somebody else, I don't know who, but somebody else, then maybe I'd be, you know, more prone for it. So I'm gonna buy the idea of Man of Steel 2 with the hopes of a good director. Josh, I know Superman is like your baby in this podcast, so I'm looking forward to see, do you buy or sell this? And what do you think in case of directors? I mean, I would assume you don't want Zack Snyder back, but correct me if I'm wrong. And if you don't want him back, who do you want to see direct Man of Steel 2?
Yeah, I definitely do not want Zack Snyder back. I did not want him back after Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel could have been way better, but that's a whole other story. Going back to, you know, pretty much Dawn of Justice, they took in the death of Superman and they rushed it in there. They stuffed it in there. So here's the thing. This is a fresh opportunity to pretty much make up, and this is what I've kind of seen online. It's pretty much Warner Brothers want to start fresh with Superman after like Justice League, or I don't know when this will go into production. If they want to start fresh with Superman, so it definitely needs a new director. And I was kind of going through a lot of stuff where like there have been like really famous directors that wanted to direct Superman in the past and just never had that opportunity. Obviously, one this was probably over a decade ago, probably maybe 2 decades ago, was J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams had a script that he pitched to Warner Brothers, probably like in 2002, called Superman Flyboy. The script, the concept that I read, isn't the greatest thing. It's got a lot of Krypton concepts into it, where there's a big war in Krypton, and it goes back and forth between Earth and Krypton and stuff like that. That would have been kind of neat. But for today's standards for directors, you know, like, okay, number one, I would definitely like to see maybe Kevin Smith take a shot at it. There was once upon a time, he said he had no interest in directing a comic book movie, because he just wanted to do like lowbrow comedies or independent films, stuff like that, stuff that was just really super grounded and low budget. But I think that was years ago, and now he's doing The Flash, the TV series The Flash. He's directing a couple episodes of that. He's grown as a director. He's doing more stuff. He did that Tusk, that horror movie, so he's got a little touch of some darkness and some villains. He did that one movie called Red State, which was like a horror movie. So he's had a touch of villain type stuff, you know, really get into that dark area for a villain's point of view. And he's a comic book geek, and he wrote the first draft of Superman Lives back in the late 90s. So he definitely has his hands in the Warner Brothers pot at one time. So I'm sure he would definitely be an option. I'm sure that won't happen, but I don't think he would be a bad option if that conversation came up. And once again, he's directing the Flash. My other director that I was thinking about, actually, what I think would do an awesome job is John McTiernan. I don't know if that name rings a bell. He was the director of the original Die Hard with a Vengeance. He did Hard Rain. He did a few other action films and stuff like that. The villains that he did in the Die Hard films were brilliant. Hans Gruber, the Gruber brothers, and stuff like that. Especially the Simon character in Die Hard with a Vengeance had that Luthor, Riddler type character that we kind of get already with Jesse Eisenberg. So I think with that, and we get a character from his first film, Die Hard, that we already loved, John McClane. And he knew how to tell a story and why we would care about John McClane through this battle throughout this building. And I think, and there was one time I had my own idea of Superman being launched in a building trying to save hostages from a bomb from Luthor and all that good jazz. So, I mean, I think that would be kind of neat. He would be a really good director for it. Last but not least, my number one would definitely be the director from The Revenant and Birdman. That would be Alejandro. Excuse me if I don't say his last name right. I'm not going to try it. But everyone knows The Revenant. Everyone knows Birdman with Michael Keaton. Birdman was a take of superheroes, a washed-up actor who used to play a superhero. And in the way he did The Revenant and the way Leo had to survive for the entire movie through every kind of attack. Just think, man, if you were to redo a movie about survival with Superman and keep Superman grounded, where you humanize the character with all kinds of different paths, you really sit down with a smart writer, with a really smart director, and sit there and be like, okay, how can you humanize this character? How can we actually, besides using fucking kryptonite, right? You do it with the old school Luthor used to do. He would outsmart the character. That's how he got the upper hand on Superman. He would outsmart him in so many different other tactics. And then, he wouldn't just take somebody hostage. He would have, look at the first Superman movie. He would have two different rockets go in two different directions. Superman couldn't catch them at the same time. So, one blasted off. I think he would do a fantastic job, in a new Superman, giving the character a new fresh air, creating a brand new villain, for the character as well, whether it's Brainiac, Parasite, it could be fucking the one dude he's half robotic and he's got the kryptonite in his body. I forget what the fuck he's called. He's created by Lex Luthor. I mean, there's just so many characters you can definitely build on, and actually give them a great story, and I think those are my choices. And I don't want to go with the super heavyweights like J.J. Abrams, like I mentioned before. He tried to do it. Tim Burton tried to do it in the late 90s. Bryan Singer took a stab at it. I thought it was pretty good, but a lot of people didn't like it. So, there's a lot of heavy hitters I didn't want to go with. I want to go with more people that you wouldn't think of, but I thought would actually take the character, make it grounded, make it something you would care about, and make the villain really freaking interesting. And those are the characters I would directors I would definitely go with for this type of franchise, just to give it a breath of fresh air. And to go back to the original question, fuck Zack Snyder, fire his ass, get him out of there. Go back to fucking Sucker Punch or whatever the fuck you were doing. Go do another zombie movie. I thought fucking Dawn of Dead or whatever the fuck that was. I thought that was pretty good with Ben Rins. I thought that was a pretty good movie. Go back to that shit. I thought that was really cool. Do another 300. I thought that was all right. That was pretty cool. Because that was a fresh new idea. It's a comic book, but it was a new on-screen idea and shit. So. Yeah, go with that shit, man. But those are my directors.
Harsh words from Josh on Zack Snyder. I don't know who was more harsh there, Mike or Josh. I don't know. Josh, you added some constructive criticism at least. Mike just shat all of the ideas, so I don't know. I think the unanimous thing there is nobody wants Zack Snyder back on a Man of Steel sequel, so that's covered at least. When you said Kevin Smith, the first thing that went through my head was that I thought that I could be wrong here, but didn't he write the script for the Tim Burton Superman film that never happened, the Death of the Superman Lives, whatever it was?
Yeah,
that's what I.
Yeah, he wrote the first draft. Yeah, he wrote the first draft. Granted, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but granted, that was like over 25 years ago. So I mean, the guy is probably better his craft a little bit. But also, too, he was following a lot of weird directions from, John Peters.
Yeah.
Like no cape or whatever the fuck it was.
The giant spider.
I mean, and there really were. The giant spider was in there. The fucking polar bears were in there. I mean, I read that thing at least 3 times. So there was a lot of goofy shit there that he was told to write. But I think, like I said before, number one, he is a hardcore comic book fan, so he would treat the thing like his child, You know, he would treat it like a fucking puppy. He would make sure it had the best care. He's doing the Flash TV shows right now, and he's getting a lot of good reports on it.
Yeah.
He's always directing, and he's been directing some dark shit too, like Red State and Tusk. So he can put a spin on the villain and really create a really good origin for some kind of villain character. So that's why I thought of him.
He could be an interesting pick. I mean, you know, taking away the Dick and Ferk joke movies like the Jay and Silent Bobs and movies like that, which, nothing against them. I enjoy Jay and Silent Bob and Mallrats and all those. But then, as you mentioned, as he's progressed as a filmmaker, he started to make Red State, which is a pretty good movie. I didn't care for Tusk too much. But I did, you know, I loved the episodes of The Flash that he did. And he may have done one for Supergirl too, if I remember correctly, or he is doing one. I can't recall. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Smith, he definitely could be a good pick, honestly, because he spoke highly of the Suicide Squad. He was kind of mixed on Batman vs Superman, but everybody was. I wasn't entirely too familiar with him beyond his movies until you mentioned, you know, possibly might talk to him about coming on this podcast. So then I went out and I watched this film from a long time ago called An Evening with Kevin Smith. It's like a stand-up thing where he just talks to the question and answer with the audience, and I watched like 3 of those things that he did, and then one's like, I'm too fat to be 40 or something or 40 or something like that. But I watched a lot of things that he was doing question and answer sessions, and yeah, that's when I got to know that he really is die-hard like superhero guy. Like, so you know, he could definitely be somebody good to take over the Superman and give us a Superman that we know from the past, because he's familiar with the source material, and obviously he's got it in with DC already because he's doing work on their TV shows. So that could be, you know, a possibility, and it can't be any worse than Zack Snyder. So
Right.
All right, well, speaking of the DC TV shows, one more thing I want to talk about with Buy or Sell is, I don't know if you guys heard this rumor or not yet, but a couple days ago, or yesterday it might have been, a rumor came out that Joss Whedon, who, for those of you who don't know, and you all probably do, the director of the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, as well as the Buffy TV series, is rumored to direct a 2-part crossover musical episode between Supergirl and The Flash that will come out this fall. Josh, I know you don't really watch the TV too much, but if you were to watch this, do you buy or sell the idea of a crossover of Supergirl and Flash, but it's a musical episode, but you have the director of the Avengers doing it? What do you think about that?
I'm not even sure. That sounds really bizarre. But I'm gonna buy it for 2 reasons. Number one, and I've said this in the past, these TV series are always really popular, especially the superhero genre stuff. Always seem to have a big audience. Supergirl is kicking a lot of ass. So is The Flash. And then Joss Whedon, before the Avengers and all the Marvel stuff, he worked in TV. I believe he was directing and producing television. So he knows TV. He knows that world. Angel, thank you. So he knows that world. So I think because he's so experienced, and Angel was pretty popular when it was on TV, and I think he had a thing to do with Buffy too.
Yeah, he did Buffy as well.
Yeah, so that was hugely popular back in the late '90s and early 2000s. So I think he'll treat it very well.
So you buy the idea?
Yeah, I buy the idea.
Okay. What do you think, Mike? I know, Mike, you've not watched The Flash yet, but I know you're a huge fan of Supergirls. So what do you think of this idea, Mike?
You said musical, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know you hate musicals, but you like the Supergirl, and so I just wanted to get your idea on it.
I like porn too, and if it's a musical, I'm not watching it. Fucking musical. Why? 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 Why everyone gotta be different and just Why? No, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to set this piece of trash right out there next to the other piece of trash. Oh, a musical? A musical. Why? Who? Steal Josh's line. Who asked for this?
Everybody's stealing Josh's lines.
Was there like some kind of blog or forum where they're like, oh my God, I wish they'd do a musical? Like, really? Yeah. Like, did someone lose a bet? Why? Where did this come from? Whose bright fucking idea was this to do a musical? There's been like one successful musical show on TV, and that was that one that was on Fox, Glee or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. If musicals were that successful, don't you think there'd be more of them? Don't you think you'd see more movie musicals instead of, just plays on Broadway? Which, not knocking them, not saying they're not talented, but really, who are you trying? Are you trying to gain a new fan base? It's stupid. It's fucking just do the normal fucking episodes. How do we know any of these people can sing? Are they going to be doing voiceovers? Is it going to come out correctly? It's just stupid. It's really fucking stupid. No, shit's going on the curb. It's trash. It's not even worth trying to sell.
That was something I thought of too. It's like, how do we know if any of these actors or actresses can sing, and if they can't, and if his voice, like if it's dubbed over somebody else's voice, like a singer's voice, well then that just makes no sense anyway. So it's kind of weird, and it is two-parter, so it's 2 episodes. Probably Monday Supergirl, and then it concludes Tuesday in The Flash. The only reason, I will buy this, and the only reason why I will buy this is because he did the episode, the musical with Buffy. I don't know if you ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but there was a musical episode of Buffy that, the show was super good, but the soundtrack that came off of that episode that actually was released on CD was even better than the show. So, I still have that, so, because of the how good that was, I will buy this. But with that said, I would prefer that they not waste an episode of these 2 shows on a musical, because like I've said, The Flash is one of my favorite TV shows, and I enjoy Supergirl as well. And I'm not looking forward to a musical episode, but Josh Whedon, because of what he did with Buffy, I'll have a little bit of faith with it because I enjoyed what he did with Buffy. It is interesting to see that the guy who made Avengers Age of Ultron has had to return to television, so I guess that says a lot about him. I'm sure a lot of people will hate me for that comment, but hey, I'm just speaking the truth there. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, yeah, it's a small buy, it's damn near Rent. You know what I'm saying? It's the smallest buy you can get, but I'll buy it. I just at least for now, if they reveal later that they're dubbing people's voices over with singers and shit like that, then I'm out. Alright guys, there's one more buy or sell story, and then we'll talk about some things that you guys may have watched. We can review some stuff, but this is the story that I was looking forward to talking about. So for those that are not familiar, Connor McGregor is a UFC fighter. He's one of the champions in the featherweight division. He is very flamboyant and egotistical, talks a lot of shit about everybody. And earlier this week, Conor McGregor went on the defense, or the offense, the offense, talking about not a UFC fighter, not a UFC promoter. For whatever reason, Conor McGregor started talking crap about the WWE roster. Obviously, WWE, professional wrestling, sports entertainment. So Conor McGregor started talking crap about the WWE roster, and the 2 quotes that I have from Conor McGregor was that he said, and unfortunately the context in which these quotes were given is not given in any of the articles that I looked through. I looked like 20 articles trying to find the context of his quotes, but I couldn't find it. But essentially his quotes were, the first one was, for the most part, those WWE guys are pussies, to be honest. They're messed up in the head pussies, if you ask me. And then he said in Twitter, I didn't mean no disrespect to WWE fans. What I meant to say was I'd slap the head off your entire roster twice on Sundays. So that's what Conor McGregor said. Basically what happens after that is the floodgates open from WWE superstars. And I can't even quote all of them, and you can go on Twitter and check it out for yourself. But I did take a couple responses from WWE roster that I'm going to read for you, and then I want to get you guys' opinion. But some of these ones were pretty good, and it makes you wonder if this is a work or what's going on. But Ric Flair, obviously Nature Boy Ric Flair, his quote in response was, "Coming from a guy who built a career copying my persona, I expected the type of class we get from Ronda or Anderson. After Diaz finishes you again, I dare you to try guys like Dolph, Brock, or Fit Finlay. Oh, and you're welcome for your gimmick." AJ Styles says, "I think McGregor would do well in the featherweight division if the WWE had one." Big E says, "Would you prefer to find us individually or have us line up at once? I know your time is valuable, sir."
I like that one a lot.
Kurt Angle says, "Very funny little guy. Why don't you get your head out Dana's ass?" Roman Reigns, for all the shit that he gets, has a very good response. He says, "You're the size of my leg. Shut up." And so that's a good one. But the last but not least, and this one was so great, the legendary, the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik says, "The Conor McGregor, you lucky I don't see you break your fucking neck. You never respect my sport, jabroni." That's a direct quote, all broken English and everything. But the Conor McGregor, you lucky I don't see you break your fucking neck. You never respect my sport, jabroni. So Iron Sheik flying off the handle there. I could just hear him saying that in his broken English. So I don't know what caused this. Conor McGregor start talking crap at WWE. The WWE guys, and I'm telling you, there's at least 50 responses from all wrestlers, from, even Taz, who's not with WWE, has a CBS sports show. He had some comments. Everybody's got comments out there. I couldn't even get them all. I just want to take a couple funny ones. Mike, I'll start with you because I know you're the big UFC fan. You know Conor McGregor and his ego. Obviously, you watch WWE. What do you take from these comments? What is there for one to gain from Conor McGregor talking crap about WWE wrestlers? Or is this a work? Is this, a grand conspiracy? Is this all a put-on show at the WWE and Conor McGregor working together? Is he just being an asshole and talk shit to the wrong group of people? What do you think about this?
I think it's a work on Conor's end. I don't think WWE knows anything about. I don't think they're in cahoots together about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely see Conor, maybe looking at, an avenue, another avenue to make money. Should he lose to Diaz or should his MMA career go south? He's kind of, I hate the little fucking Mick douchebag, but I think it's, almost smart on his part because, should his MMA career go south, he's almost all but guaranteed himself, a spot on the roster to make a lot of money. He probably sees how much money Brock Lesnar makes in the WWE, even though Brock Lesnar made a shitload of money in the UFC, but he probably sees how much money he makes there and how easy the schedule is for him and thinks maybe he can do it, although he is no Brock Lesnar and is not established. I honestly, at the end of the day, I think he's just doing it. I don't think he seriously means it. I think he's just doing it as a way to boost his pay-per-view ratings because now a lot of WWE fans are going to tune in to, his next fight to hopefully see him get his ass kicked. Kind of like why people tuned in to see Tito. They tuned in because they loved him or they tuned in because they hated him and they wanted to see him get his ass kicked. I think it's going to be the same way with Conor McGregor. There's no way he's that fucking stupid. Or that. No, but then again, I don't know. He is that big of a fucking douchebag, but I honestly think it's a work.
All right, yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that, in my opinion, I thought it was a work on Conor's end. I don't think the WWE guys are in on it. I think Conor was getting the publicity out there because he's got the fight with Diaz coming up on Nate Diaz coming up on Saturday on pay-per-view. And I think he was kind of just getting his name out there, getting the hype going, get people talking about him who weren't talking about him before. And you know, you have a point there. If things go south, if he loses to Diaz, that's 2 losses in a row. I mean, his stock was going to plummet for sure. He won't be out of a job by any means, but he's going to have the Ronda Rousey mystique, you know, taken away from him for sure. And much like Chael Sonnen, who was quoted numerous times, you know, saying superstar Billy Graham catchphrases, but yet he would talk crap about the quote-unquote fake wrestlers trying to get the heat. You know, they're all playing a part. I think the UFC, the WWE, especially now they're traded Brock Lesnar back and forth. I watched the CM Punk documentary on Fox Sports 1 yesterday. There was video and picture stills from WWE, so they obviously got got approval from WWE to use that material. They're kind of working together on a lot of things. So whether or not this another publicity thing, because McGregor has a fight coming up on Saturday, SummerSlam happens to be on Sunday. It's a possibility, but there's no way to know for sure. But what they always say about professional wrestling is everything is a work. Josh, what do you think? Is this a work? And if it is, is everybody in on it? Is it just McGregor? What are you thinking, Josh?
Oh, man, I think the Fruit Loops have gone right to your guys' heads, man. Everything with the WWE is real. Don't you know that? Everything's real.
It's still real to me, damn it.
It's still real to me, damn it. Everything in there. Mm-hmm. No, I definitely tweeted this on Facebook and elsewhere just this past week. I think the whole thing is a work until someone throws a legit punch. That's just how I see it. And, you know, I think, Matt, you brought up a really good point. I didn't even realize that the UFC event and SummerSlam on the same weekend. Is that right?
Yep, UFC so Saturday and SummerSlam Sunday.
Wow, so they're back-to-back. And like you mentioned with the CM Punk documentary showing WWE footage, yeah, they need that permission. Yeah, it might be Punk's footage, but that is all owned by WWE, by Vince. Mm-hmm. With Brock Lesnar, the SummerSlam ads showing at the UFC event, the commercials and all that type of shit, yeah, they're definitely working together. So there's definitely something up. And it just proves my point that WWE is just a much bigger animal. It is definitely the herbivore over the UFC. The UFC is definitely the brontosaurus that just can't defend itself, and the WWE is the T-Rex that can hunt you down. So obviously they've got the momentum, they're up on it, but they're willing to work with you, which is kind of cool. And that's the one cool thing about Vince. He may have all the greatest ideas in the world, but he'll run with almost anything. You know, you shoot him an idea at him. You know, if it can make everybody money, especially him, he'll do it. And that's what's really cool about this whole thing. In a weird way, if you think about it, it's kind of like when ECW had the invasion angle back in the late 90s, like 97, when Paul Heyman and ECW showed up on Raw. It's kind of like that. Not as over the top as it was then, because obviously it's UFC, so they have to be separated and shit. But it's almost like that. It's just a bunch of shit talking. You know, and it's a bunch of, like, tweeting promos, because everything's on Twitter, you know, for the most part. And then, you know, and then it goes back and forth, and the wrestlers fucking retaliate with their fucking tweets, you know, and it just goes back and forth. But like I said, I definitely agree with you guys. It's definitely a work, you know, and the whole thing is a work until someone throws a legit punch. And if the final showdown happens in a WWE ring, then obviously we know it was a work. The whole thing was a show. If it happens in an octagon, it possibly could be a work. You know, it could have been all set up for that, you know. But I definitely would think it's all pre-planned, just for the fact that you just say WWE in a public setting, it'd probably get way more attention than most other platforms. So, yeah, it's definitely a work.
Yeah.
I would also say that, you know, maybe he's looking for another big money fight and he may be looking for like what he may consider to be an easy paycheck, because this could set up a fight with him and CM Punk, which would do huge pay-per-view numbers. So, like, he talked shit about Brock and whatnot, so if Punk wins this fight, I wouldn't be surprised if this would be Conor's next fight after he, because I believe he's got to go fight Jose Aldo after Nate Diaz to unify the featherweight championship, because Jose Aldo is now the interim featherweight champion. So I could see him definitely trying to set up a big payday fight, because Conor's already said it. You know, there's fighters who, you know, fight for legacy and fight to be great, and then there's just those who are in it for the money, and Conor's just in it for the money.
I think you have a good point there, Mike, but I think what Josh said might actually be almost like hitting the nail on the head, where he said if this ends in a WWE ring, we know it's a work. Now that I'm thinking about it, I could see this being the beginning of a build to WrestleMania next year, because the original plan obviously was to get Ronda Rousey, and her mystique is all but gone since Holly Holm knocked her head off. So you haven't seen her, no one's talking about her, no one cares. Conor's still kind of out in the spotlight for UFC as the big draw. Maybe that's the return. We'll give you Brock Lesnar for UFC 200, and you give us Conor McGregor at WrestleMania next year. Maybe this is the start of that. I mean, I gotta believe it's a work, because I don't think that the WWE or UFC would let their fighters or wrestlers go out there and you know, run their mouths the way that they are on a public platform. But I could definitely see it leading to WrestleMania. That would make sense to me, where they would get their return, because they still haven't got their return investment from giving Brock Lesnar to the UFC at UFC 200, and Vince isn't doing anything for nothing. I don't care. I mean, I know Paul Heyman goes out there and says Brock does what Brock Lesnar wants, but he's under contract, so Vince McMahon allowed that to happen. It's just a matter of why.
Well, at the same time, though, you gotta look at, like, what a loose cannon, you know, Conor McGregor is. And, like, I really, you know, like, if he gets mad, he's just the type that'll, you know, tweet something and like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I could see them, like, trusting him with that information, that, you know, like, oh, this is all just a build up, we need you to start trolling, you know, WWE, so we can send you over to there, et cetera, unless they, you know, he's already signed some kind of non-disclosure contract to where he forfeits everything if he opens his mouth, because that's the only way I could see. Because look what he got himself off the UFC 200 card because he wouldn't go to a press conference and said he retired, and once he announced that he was retired, he couldn't come back and fight for, like, I think it's so many days, because he has to start all his drug shit over with, even though he said a week later, oh no, I'm not retired. So unless there's some kind of non-disclosure contract involved, then I don't see it, you know, being a work on both ends.
Okay. That makes sense. I can see that. It'd be definitely to see if there's any follow-up to that. I mean, if this just happened this week and then it blows over and nothing comes from it, then it probably was just Conor fucking around and the W guys fell for it. If there's some sort of follow-up and this continues to escalate, then I'm gonna say it's probably a work on both sides. But I guess time will tell on that. All right, guys, let's go ahead.
I was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
I was just gonna mention really quick. There was talks probably like a month or two ago where Conor expressed interest in the WWE, or vice versa. There was WWE and Conor talks like a few months ago.
Yes, yeah.
So,
I didn't see that, but I figure if that's happening, it's got to be a work.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead. Let's jump over to the last segment we're gonna do for today. Let's go ahead and go to What Are You Watching?
From movies to TV shows, there's a lot to choose from. What are you watching?
And obviously, with what are we watching, the name is pretty self-explanatory. It's just, whatever you watched the last week or so, and we're going to go ahead and do some quick reviews on it. Mike, you mentioned right off the bat, that you saw Suicide Squad for the second time. So let us know if that improves your viewing on it or, worsened your viewpoint on Suicide Squad. You also saw a different movie in theaters this weekend. You can tell us about that and anything else that you've watched. So, Mike, go ahead and start out for us.
As far as Suicide Squad, it didn't worsen or improve it. It was the same. I enjoyed it just as much. Like, I didn't, pick it apart the second time and find new things that I didn't like about it or new things that I liked about it. I thought it was just, it may not have been as good the second time because, the jokes weren't as funny, the surprise wasn't there, but, I mean, it didn't really fall off as perspective, ooh, I just noticed they did this. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, it really didn't affect it at all for me. The other movie I wanted to see was, as bad, if not maybe even worse, as Batman vs. Superman. It was Sausage Party. I mean, boy, it was almost what I expected it to be, but it was, ugh. I mean, the very end of it is fucking hilarious, but it has some funny parts here and there, but it's basically what you'd expect from a Seth Rogen animated film. That's basically all I can say about it. It was kind of fucking a waste of time. It really was. I mean, I wouldn't even recommend it on Redbox.
Wow.
I recommend YouTubing the last 5 minutes of the film because you'll be laughing your fucking ass off. But outside of that, no, it was just stupid, very stupid.
So, Sausage Party, the worst movie of the year? Worse than Batman vs. Superman, in your opinion?
No, because it was expected to be stupid. Batman vs. Superman was stupid when it wasn't expected to be stupid. I don't know.
Why'd you go see it if you expected it to be stupid?
If I was forced, I'll put it like this. If I was forced, if you said, hey, you have to watch one of these, I would watch Sausage Party because it's only an hour and a half of stupid, where Superman is 3 hours of stupid.
What if you had to watch Sausage Party twice to make it 3 hours, so it's equal running time? Which one would you watch?
Well, who's going to watch a shitty movie back to back?
You are in this metaphor. Which one would you watch? 3 hours of Sausage Party or 3 hours of Batman vs. Superman?
I'm going to sleep.
That's crazy. Because everybody who's listening, I don't know if you're new listeners or not, but everybody knows how much Mike hates Batman vs. Superman because he's been hating on that since every week since March 25th when the thing came out. For Sausage Party to be that bad, I'm glad I didn't go see it. I was going to go see Sausage Party Sunday morning, but then life happens. It seems to do with me, and it got in the way, and I didn't get to go. And now I'm kind of glad that I didn't go see it because that's pretty bad. If you're ranking it there with Batman vs. Superman for as much as you hated that movie. Did you watch anything else recently besides Sausage Party and Suicide Squad? Anything else you've watched?
Power's been picking up. Like the season premiere kind of sucked, but as the season progresses, the episodes are getting better and better. I'm really falling in love with Power again without binge watching it, which I didn't think I'd be able to do.
I second that. I second that. I was going to say originally that Power was a show I had to binge watch. I was getting very bored week to week, but I'm not going to spoil for anybody who hasn't watched it. But last Sunday's episode was like holy shit moment. I can't wait for next Sunday to see the follow up to that because that was a really, really good episode on Sunday. Power on Stars for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about. Anything else, or was that all you've been watching lately?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching. Just waiting for TV to start back up, and definitely for the NFL to come back on. Yeah, I mean, I started watching Catfish a little bit. Wow, those people are fucking stupid. Man. This dude was in a 3-year relationship with a chick that he never talked on the phone with from age 17 to 20. You just pissed away your senior year of high school because you got a girlfriend that you never talked to on the phone before. You only text with.
Is this the first time you've ever watched Catfish before? The MTV show Catfish?
It was the first time I watched it all the way through.
Well, the reason why I was wondering, I've watched Catfish. I've watched all 3 or 4 seasons, whatever it was been, because my wife likes that show, so we've watched it. But from a new viewer, does this show not seem fake to you? My wife doesn't agree with me. I think this show is fake, unless they just find the dumbest fucking people in America. Like you said, the guy dated some chick for 3 years, never talked on the phone, probably got some fake pictures, so he never video chatted or nothing like that. Like, come on, man, that shit's got to be fake.
No, I really believe that there's still idiots out there like this. Because I mean, like, hell, people bought Batman v Superman even after it was in theaters. So the idiots are out there, Matt.
But what about okay, he wants to talk to this chick on the phone for 3 years and she won't let him. Neve and Max show up with their camera, call her on the phone, or him or her, whatever it is, call him on the phone, like, oh, can you meet us tomorrow on camera and meet this person? Oh, of course, I'll be free, I'll meet you tomorrow. Like, wait a minute, this dude's been trying for 3 years to meet you, and you won't do it, but now because MTV shows up, you're dropping everything and meet him? Like, that just seems a little fake to me. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, because most people seem to think it's real. It's been going on for years, but it's just like, man, really? Some dumb fucking people in this world.
I think it's, like I said, I think it's real, and it's not, like there's millions of cases out there, but some people are just such hopeless romantics and whatever, and fucking, people, through a text message, you can be whatever that person wants. So, it'd be real easy to make someone fall in love with you if all you could do is talk through chat. You can become their ideal, and like just hour-long conversations. And some of them, they do talk on the phone and whatnot. They just can't meet, et cetera, and there's no video chat. But, like hours of conversations. I mean, just think about that. 3 years of conversations with this person, intimate conversations, even though you haven't met. So, I think deep down they probably know that something's fishy, but they're hoping that they're wrong, and they almost don't want to, kind of like when you're 11 or 10, and there's not a Santa, but you know what I mean. I think it's maybe that same kind of logic. Same with wrestling for us wrestling fans, where you're like, I know this is fake, but that type of deal.
I guess that makes sense. I just always thought, like, in a world of Android and iPhone and Facebook and all these different things that have video chat capabilities, I mean, it's kind of hard to find somebody who can't video chat. Oh, I can take a selfie or a million selfies and put them up and send pictures, but I can't video chat with you. Like, to me, that'd be a red flag right away. Like, oh, no, man, you ain't who you say you are. But I guess there are some, like you said, some people that are hopeless romantics or people that are just desperate or whatever the case, and they fall for that shit. But I get a kick out of that show. I do watch it, but I always thought that it was fake. But I tried Googling it and researching it and shit, but I can't find anybody who says that it's fake. But I guess there's just some dumb fucking people in this world. That's all. Josh, what have you been? You don't really watch TV that much, but have you watched any movies or anything lately, Josh?
Yeah, I definitely. This past weekend, I kind of just, especially Saturday, I just kind of chilled out at the house and I just kind of watched some movies. And one I rented, which was 13 Hours of Baji, I think it's pronounced. It's the Michael Bay war film. That came up probably like no more than 6 to 8 months ago, actually, not too long ago. And I know Michael Bay gets a lot of shit sometimes for his directing because of the Transformers films, but this film, I mean, I put this film right up there, probably just above, like, say, the Armageddon, or even like Pain Again they did with The Rock Rock and Mark Wahlberg. Super fucking good. Really good fucking movie. And really good performances. You really care about the characters. And the action scenes, and especially when, because they're not here in the States. They're, overseas. And I'm not really sure where they're at, like an Iraqi type of area.
They're in Libya.
A war zone. Yeah, Libya. And, yeah, it's just, it's almost like the movie Hurt Locker, where you're dealing with, like, cell phone rigged bombs and just stuff that they have to run for cover. And really intense. Really good film. I really enjoyed it. And that was really cool.
Did you know it was based on a true story?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely knew that.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering because
I didn't know much about the story.
I was just wondering because I saw this movie a couple months ago, I think it was, and I had no idea that it was based on a true story because I don't try and follow current events as far as the war and politics, and I don't try and follow that stuff. So I had no idea. I just thought this was a Michael Bay movie, and I expected it like I said, Transformers, explosions, blah blah. And fucking movie was amazing. I've watched it twice. I thought it was super good. But I had no idea until after I finished it, when the ending credits pop up there, that it was actually based on a true event. And I was like, holy shit! Like it blew me away. But it's such a good movie. So yeah, 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi is the name of the movie. So if anybody's not seen that yet, I recommend checking that out. What else did you watch, Josh?
No, yeah, it's definitely a really good fucking movie. And it just shows that Michael Bay can direct. So,
yes.
Get off the guy's back. The other movie I watched, this is something I actually forgot about, and something I've wanted to see for a very long time. And I thought it was okay. It was called St. Vincent with Bill Murray. And Melissa McCarthy is in here as well. Cute movie. Not the greatest thing in the world, but it was good. I did enjoy it for the most part. I saw what they were going for. I'm going to try to explain some things so it doesn't sound like I'm spoiling too much. I definitely highly do recommend it. It's on Netflix, so that's how I was able to catch it. And that's how I remembered that I hadn't seen it. So I watched it on Netflix, and pretty much Bill Murray plays a rundown old man. He's got a lot of problems. He's got, money problems, alcohol problems, and then he befriends his neighbors, and he becomes like a unannounced babysitter for the little boy because the mom's working all the time. So, the characters are really cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit of As Good as It Gets, but instead of Jack Nicholson, we got Bill Murray. And I kept when Bill Murray has this New Jersey accent in the movie, and it's for the performance. It's really well done by Bill Murray. This is not a comedy. It's pretty dramatic. There's some parts you could probably chuckle at, but for the most part, it's a drama. And Bill Murray really does a really nice job. The character goes through a lot of different transitions through his problems. You learn a lot about his backstory. It's kind of tragic. And then he has health issues later on in the story. And he has to go through all these elements. Not bad. It's really cool how he does it. Melissa McCarthy is not too bad. Her character really reminded me of Monique from Precious, if you guys seen that. The single mom that's struggling and the world's against her, all that type of shit. So, like I said before, I see what they were trying to do. I saw the dramatic elements that they were trying to create. As the movie starts to progress, you kind of start to lose it a little bit. The story is kind of there, but it's not. And there's no real goal for these characters. And there's no, sudden, resolution for the characters that I saw. And at least with As Good as It Gets, there was some kind of resolution. Pretty much, the characters in As Good as It Gets were total utter opposites, and they clashed, and at the end of the movie, they got along. And Nicholson and Helen Hunt were able to win each other over, with really clever dialogue. And that was the other thing, too. This movie, the dialogue wasn't that clever. You can kind of get bored a little bit with a lot of the scenes because they would kind of drag out and they would just kind of sit there. But once the dialogue would kick in, you would hear them talk. It's like, okay, I'm kind of intrigued, but now where is this going? Are they going anywhere? So it's got some hit or misses and stuff like that. But overall, it's a decent movie, and it's on Netflix, so it won't cost you a thing except for your monthly fee.
Very cool. You watch anything else besides that?
I think that's it that really comes to mind. Yeah, I probably watched maybe some documentaries, but I can't really think off the top of my head what they were. But those are the two that stand out.
Okay. I watched 3 movies, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on either one of them because they're not worth it, honestly. The first movie that I watched was Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. It's the sequel to the original Neighbors with Seth Rogen and Zac Efron. I don't know why I was expecting a good movie from this. I mean, the first movie was pretty funny for, it had its parts, whatever, being funny. But with most sequels, especially comedy sequels, they're simply cash grabs. They're not really put a lot of thought into them, and which is the case with Neighbors 2 here. The end of Neighbors, the original Neighbors, not to spoil it, but it's a several-year-old movie. Seth Rogen and Zac Efron, after competing, Seth Rogen is an older married guy with the baby. Zac Efron is a part of a sorority house, a fraternity, I guess it is. And they battle, and then, of course, there's a happy ending. They get along, and the sequel kicks off. Suddenly, they're enemies again for no explanation given. They don't like each other for whatever reason, which is weird because the trailers all showed them working together to battle this new sorority house that moves in next door. Not going to try and spoil anything, but basically, yeah, they do work together, and then it's just a rehash of the very first movie with less funny jokes. So for me, Neighbors 2, it's only an hour and a half, so it was worth the watch, I guess, but it was rather lackluster, and it's kind of like just like any other comedy. If you've seen the first one, the second one is about 25% as good as the first one was, and it's just there to kind of cash in, and that's what Neighbors 2 was for me. Sure. I'll never watch it again. I mean, it was killed an hour and a half, but nothing special.
Mm-hmm. That's what I figured it'd be.
Kind of sounds like Grown Ups too.
Yes, like Grown Ups too, exactly. Kind of just a rehash. And the next one that I watched, I was actually disappointed. I really wanted to like this movie. I wanted to see this in theaters, and I didn't get a chance to. And I was looking forward to seeing this, and then I was really disappointed. Which is a movie called Money Monster with George Clooney, Julia Roberts, and Dominic West. It's actually directed by Jodie Foster. So I was...
Hold on. What was the name of the movie?
Money Monster.
Was that the one? Is that the one where George Clooney gets taken as hostage and they kind of give it away in the trailers? And I bitched about the movie.
Absolutely. Yep. That is that movie. And if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the whole movie. So if you've seen the 2-minute trailer, there's no point watching the movie because what you saw in the trailer is this movie to a T. I mean, there's no twists, no turns, nothing. I mean, Julia Roberts, her role could have been played by anybody. It didn't have to be Julia Roberts. She added nothing to the story as far as an actress. That character served its purpose, but it really didn't need to be Julia Roberts. George Clooney was good, but I mean, George is pretty much good in everything he does. Dominic West was in the movie for like 5 minutes, so I don't really count him for much. But the thing with this movie was, besides if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the whole movie, it was very slow in plotting. The setup of George Clooney works at a TV station for like Wall Street. He's like a money guru for Wall Street, giving insider tips and things like that. And somebody who lost a lot of money on a bad bet that he followed George Clooney's advice takes George hostage with a bomb and a gun live on television, and he wants to know why he loses money is basically the setup there. And it's a good, interesting premise, and it sets up the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie. Unfortunately, then you have about 45, 50 minutes of nothing happening. I mean, and it's so unrealistic and it's so boring. And you're just kind of waiting, and then as like certain things happen, you're kind of like shaking your head, like really. And then by the payoff is given in the trailer, so you know exactly how this movie is going to end. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a movie called Mad City with Dustin Hoffman and John Travolta from back in the 90s.
Oh yeah. Yep.
This movie is like a poor version of that movie. Mad City is a very good movie. This was trying to be a new version of that, but in my opinion failed dramatically because it's just too slow. There just wasn't any kind of no investment to me. I was watching it and I was like, well, I know George is not going to get killed, and then as it went on, you're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Like, there was just no investment there. It was very plotting, very boring, very uninspired in my opinion. So, and unlike Neighbors 2, which at least had a few chuckles there, this movie, I mean, if you want to kill an hour and 40 minutes, go ahead and watch it. But I guarantee you'll be on your phone messing around for probably an hour and 20 minutes of it. It's not gonna keep your attention. The last movie that I watched was one that for me personally, was super, super excited to see, and I walked away extremely disappointed. And this is a movie that I don't expect most of our listeners to want to see, nor do I expect you to really give a shit what I have to say about it, but that's fine. This movie is called God's Not Dead 2. It's the sequel to God's Not Dead, the original film that came out a couple years ago. God's Not Dead 2 stars Melissa Joan Hart, who's better known as Clarissa from Clarissa Explains It All, or Sabrina the Teenage Witch. David A.R. White, who runs Pure Flix, which is a Christian film company, and Jesse Metcalf, and Ray Weiss as well is in this movie. The girl from the Goldbergs, I think her name's Haley something or other, she's in this film as well. But basically, God's Not Dead 2 is about a teacher who responds to she teaches history, and a kid asks her a question in class, and her response is about Jesus, and not so much in a spiritual version, but as the man Jesus. And because we know political correctness, you can't talk about Jesus in school or God in school anymore and things like that. So because she mentions Jesus in school, right away the parents start suing the school. They're suing her. Everybody's up in arms. Like, oh my God, she mentioned Jesus Christ in school. The premise to me, I liked. I thought, because I am one of those people that still believe that you should be able to mention God and Jesus Christ in school or in wherever you want to. That's just my opinion. You don't agree with me, that's fine. I don't need you to, but that's my opinion. So the premise was interesting because I knew what the movie, it's a feel-good Christian faith movie. I knew obviously the outcome was going to be the girl was going to be found, with no wrongdoing, and yay, everybody's happy because you can talk about God or whatever. I knew that going in, but I wanted to see how it was executed, because this movie fell into a trope that a lot of Christian movies fall into, which I completely disagree with and don't like. Basically, in this movie, if you did not believe in God, you were the bad guy of the movie for no reason other than not believing in God. And to me, I don't like that, because I know a lot of people in my life that don't believe in God, that they don't believe the same things I do, and they're still good people, and I have nothing wrong with them. I don't hate them because they don't believe in God. But this movie wanted you to, that was your message in this movie, is if you don't believe in God, you're the bad guy. And that's the only reason that you get for why the opposing, council are bad. That's why they don't believe in God, so they're bad guys. And that, like, not only is that poor writing, but it's really a bad message. That if you're a Christian film and you're trying to send a good message, a positive message into the world, that's the message you give. I think that's sort of a piss poor message to give out to people. So I didn't like that. A lot of tropes with Christian films is the dialogue. The dialogue is really, really campy, really cheesy. The first God's Not Dead, the first God's Not Dead, I truly, truly enjoyed that movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the original God's Not Dead movie, which is about a teacher Have you seen that with the teacher who doesn't believe in God, but he has a real yes, but he has a valid reason for why he does not believe in God in his opinion, and if he wanted the kids in class to basically write on a piece of paper that God was dead, and if you did, you would get a passing grade right away. You have to do no homework, nothing. You pass. One kid, Shane Harper, could not do that because of his belief, so he had to give a speech, a lecture, proving in his mind why God wasn't dead. And that was really good, and it was really thought-provoking, and Kevin Sorbo was not a bad guy because he didn't believe in God. He was a bad guy because he was putting the pressure on this kid to explain why he believed what he believed. And that was cool, and that was a good dynamic, and it was a good story. This film completely didn't have that, had no connection to the first film whatsoever, and it was just sort of like a preaching film. And my thing, like I've always said, is I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe in all these things, but I'm not going to preach to anybody. If you don't believe it, hey, that's on you. You do you, I'll do me, call it a day. We ain't got to be enemies about it, whatever, This movie, I didn't like that, and it was disappointing to me because the people behind this movie are called the Newsboys. Well, they're not behind; they're associated. Called the Newsboys. It's a Christian rock group, and they're one of my favorite musicians of any genre of music. So I was kind of disappointed to see them put a product like this out because I think it sends the wrong message. And these kind of positivity films should focus on that positivity and not sending the wrong message. So to me, huge disappointment with this film. I'll never watch it again, and I really was disappointed with the creators of that movie because it sends a piss poor message for young people, especially that are still impressionable and might tune to this movie because they're in school, because they want to. Because, my kids, my stepkids, they are in that stage where they're not sure about God, whether he's real, whether it's not real, whatever, and why can't you talk about him in school? Why is he, one nation under God, all the different things, pledge allegiance at the beginning of class, things like that we used to do. But then you go and watch this movie for answers, and the answers that you get are, almost like, well, the good guys are really bigots in this movie, if you're being honest. They're hating people for not having the same belief as them, which is wrong in itself. So yeah, that was those 3 movies that I watched and 3 disappointments. I was really I was disappointed for that. So of course, what I did on Sunday to have a palate cleanser to these movies was I watched Mike's favorite movie, and I watched the ultimate cut of Batman vs Superman again. So
again,
that's right.
He probably wasn't No Holds Barred again.
Oh man, I should have watched that. That would have been better. That's even better. I should have watched that, but no, I just had some time to kill, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna watch this motherfucker again. So I sure did.
Hey man, I got mow your lawn.
What was that, Josh?
Oh, I was just gonna say I got an idea for you. We don't have to do this anytime soon. Somewhere down in the future, because you mentioned God's Not Dead 2, and I seen God's Not Dead. We should do a show of faith films, Hollywood versus like the Newsboys or those type of films, or the Kirk Cameron films. Because I think Hollywood has some really good faith theme like films that are probably not advertised as faith films, but are really freaking good. And I think some of these, like God's Not Dead, the first one, I thought it was okay. I got the message they got, but I was like, I didn't buy it. There was some of the filmmaking is just amateur. But and then some of the Kirk Cameron films are just god awful. They're just
right.
Bad. But I think there's some really good Hollywood ones that have actually done a really good job, and getting that spiritual side and that faith side, into the theme of a film. I was just thinking, like, maybe in the future we should do that. We should do a show like faith, Hollywood versus Kirk Cameron and New Boys and all those guys.
Yeah, that might be something to look into. I mean, I don't want to alienate too much of our audience because not everybody, believes that they're any of that stuff. So, but it might be something to look into because, yeah, like that's the problem. Like I said about God's Not Dead too, is it almost alienates people that don't believe, which whereas, and the thing with that movie is like it's not two sides to the story. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie called Risen, which is a Christian film, but the whole movie takes place from the viewpoint of a non-believer. It takes place in like the Roman times, back when Jesus Christ was crucified, and one of the guys that was there did not believe that he was resurrected and things like that, and the whole movie takes place from a non-believer standpoint. So it was pretty cool because it was a very unbiased, objective perspective of someone who did not believe, and then you can make your own conclusion at the end of the movie whether or not you believe or do not believe. It's not forced upon you. And that's a movie that came out actually this year in 2016 by Kevin Reynolds. Made that movie, and that's a really good movie. So things like that I appreciate. I don't like people that preach or force something onto you that you don't necessarily want. So. But yeah, that might be something to look into, though, Josh, for sure. I mean, there's definitely, like, Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas, whatever the hell that movie was god-awful, and, God's Not Dead 2 is pretty fucking bad. And there's a lot of those Christian films that are made super low budget, which are just there just to preach, and I don't like those movies, so... But I think if you have to force your belief on somebody else, then you're going about the wrong way anyways.
Yeah, no, for sure. And no, it was just an idea, just because faith films seem to be a subject sometimes.
Mm-hmm,
and so
absolutely.
I was thinking, like, wow, there's some really good Hollywood ones. I won't say them now, but I think later on. No, I think our listeners will actually appreciate, because we'll have some recognizable films in the subject that have been around for the last 20 years.
I definitely would be.
Obviously, no.
I would definitely be okay with it. Like I said on the podcast before, any of our listeners, I don't really want to offend anybody with my talk, but at the same time, I'm never going to shy away or be quiet, for what I believe. I believe what I believe, and that's me, and if you believe what you believe, and that's you, but I don't have a problem with what anybody else believes. If you have a problem with what I believe, well, go fuck yourself. I mean, that's how I look at it, but I'm not going to force anybody. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely would have a conversation about it for sure, as far as faith-based films and the good and the bad side, because let's be honest, there's a pretty bad side too. So, obviously, there's a super good side. The Passion of the Christ is one of the better movies that I've seen that are based on that. So, or the Ten Commandments was a good movie from the 50s. There's a lot of good movies, but yeah, it's just a
staying away from that.
Ten Commandments. You didn't like that movie?
Oh, Ten Commandments! I love that movie. I'm staying away from that entire debate conversation. I gave that up a while ago.
Yes, I remember those days. But yeah, so anyways, that's what I watched. Did anybody else have any thing they watched or any closing thoughts before we wrap the podcast up? A little shorter than I expected. We're only about an hour and 40 minutes, but that's okay. I cut quite a few things because I thought we were running behind on time, and we actually did pretty good, but that's okay. We'll wrap this up early today, so that's okay, because I've got to go watch the... I don't know if you guys watch it, MTV Scream. I don't know if you guys watch that or not, but the finale is tonight. We reveal who the killer is, so I'm kind of curious to check that out. So, because if you don't watch it tonight, some asshole will spoil that shit on social media, and then it'll be my own fault for going on social media knowing some asshole is going to spoil it. So I've got to watch that shit tonight before I call it a night, and I got to see who the killer is and then be let down. Did you stick with that, Josh? I remember a year or so ago we reviewed the pilot for Scream. Did you ever stick with that show, or did you drop off?
I kind of dropped off.
Yeah.
And especially because I love the Scream series, and because, if you remember on Facebook last year, I had some meetings with some of their staff, and I have a hard time sticking with TV shows. Even right now, with Stranger Things. This past week, I've been trying to watch, and I got to like the third or fourth episode, and I just get so bored.
Oh man, with Stranger Things, you got bored, really?
Yeah, I got pretty bored, man. I think what really sold me too was the whole Spielberg comparison. Like I said, when I watched the first 2 episodes, I definitely saw the cinematography, like with E.T., like Stranger Things meets E.T. I definitely saw that, But I think there's just a big difference of formats where every 10 to 15 minutes something should happen. Even like, because I've interacted with some people, and social media, whatever, and I try to watch The Flash. I like all the actors. I like some of the stories that they do and stuff like that. But man, I have a hard time with TV shows. Keeping up. I don't know. It might be like an ADD thing that develops later in life or something. Because back in the day, I could probably stick with it. So yeah, I kind of fell off.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't blame you. It's not for everybody. I stick with it just because I want to see how it ends, but it's definitely nothing like the TV shows for sure. But on that note, I am gonna go ahead and wrap this show up so I can go see how the thing all comes to an end. Pretty good show today. I had a lot of fun. The Conor McGregor thing was pretty good, and Man of Steel was definitely fun. Might go into town on that. So. We'll be back next week with whatever news stories breaks. We'll also be back next week with the return of Does It Hold Up? We'll bring that segment back, as well as What's Opening This Week. We'll bring that segment back as well. So should be a pretty good episode next week. So then, as always, until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Never Submit podcast. We appreciate your support and hope you enjoyed the show. We want to hear from you. Send your feedback, questions, and ideas to neversubmitpodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe on iTunes. You'll never miss the show. Also, be sure to like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/neversubmit and visit our website at neversubmitent.com. Thanks again for listening to the Never Submit podcast.